I'm going to show you how to remove and install crank arms. So first I'm going to start on the chainring side. I'm going to go ahead and just remove the chain off the chainring there. And usually there's going to be some sort of a cap over here. Some will screw off, some will go ahead and just pop off. This is just a little plastic one. Just pop off there. And there's going to be either a bolt or a nut in here attached to the end of the spindle. On this particular one, it's a bolt, and it's a 14 millimeter socket. Often on the nuts, it's also a 14 millimeter socket. So I'm going to go ahead, just loosen that, and then I can just go ahead and unscrew the bolt. There's the bolt. Okay, once you have the bolt or nut removed, now you're going to be using a crank arm puller tool. This is from Park Tool, and this has two parts. This part right here will thread into there, and then this part here screws into here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by taking this part here and unscrewing it a bit, and now we're going to take this part here and we're going to by hand thread that in to the crank arm, making sure we don't cross thread it. And we might use a little bit of a wrench. Just go ahead and turn it in just a little bit more, make sure that it's in enough. Don't go too tight. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take this part and screw it into this part. It'll go really easy up until it makes contact with the spindle. And right there. So now we're going to use two wrenches. One wrench we're going to hold on to this part so it doesn't turn, and then we're going to use another wrench to take this part here and turn it into that part. So let's turn this clockwise, and there'll be some resistance at first. But then it'll get easier. When it gets easy, that means that the crank arm has come loose. Now we can go ahead, just take a wrench, and we'll just go ahead or remove this part here from the crank arm. And the crank arm pops off. To remove this crank arm, just go ahead and repeat the same steps that you did to remove the crank arm on the opposite side. To reinstall the crank arm, just go ahead, push it on to the spindle. You're going to take the bolt, thread it in by hand to start it. Then go ahead, and I just tighten it in until it's sort of tight. The bolt pushes the crank arm onto the spindle and presses it on. So I just go ahead and tighten it. You could use a torque wrench, but I usually just tighten it by feel, and then pop the dust cap back on. And then to replace the crank arm on the other side, you want to make sure that it's 180 degrees from the crank arm on the opposite side. So it's going down, so this one is going to be facing up. Again, thread the bolt or nut by hand. I tighten it by feel. Pop the dust cap back on. Put the chain ring or the chain back on, and I'm done.